Hello, Blue Jays fans, and welcome to episode 281 of the Jays from the Couch radio podcast, brought to you by, of course, jaysfromthecouch.com. We're back for another week of Blue Jays talk. I know it sounds weird, no baseball, nothing really to talk about with the lockout, but we have got stuff for you. Don't you worry. It's going to be a great episode, as always, and we're streaming live on Facebook, on YouTube, and Twitter. In the moment where you can send in your questions and comments, we'll put them up on the screen and respond. It'll be great. Interactive, as they say. And of course, if you missed this episode, don't fret. Go back in the archives on YouTube or Facebook, or you can catch the audio version anywhere you find quality podcasts. Just look for Jays from the Couch. Give us a rate and review and a subscribe and all that fun stuff. And then everything will go directly to your listening device. And then you don't even have to go looking for us. We'll find you. And as creepy as that sounds, well, let's get things going here. I'm your host, as always, Sean Doyle. You can follow me on Twitter at Doyle JFtC. We've got our usual cast of characters here, including the feckless wonder himself, host of the On Feck Circle, Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Steve Feck, good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, Sean.
And the logic to all of this craziness, host of Sunny Side of the Dome, Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Karen Suter, good evening.
Good evening, Sean. Good evening, Steve.
So, Karen, how does that feel to be the adult in the room?
I'm not convinced that I am.
It's got to be somebody. And I don't think we're up to the task. So, oh, man. Anyway, We've got a great episode. And we're going to talk about Suzuki, the rumors and the possible interest there for the Toronto Blue Jays. We'll talk some guy named Freeman, Freddie, I think is his first name, maybe. There's some rumors going around there. Could all be smoke and mirrors, but who knows? We'll talk about that. All of which to lead us to the meat and potatoes of this episode, where we look at some deals that we would love to undo. Some do-overs, as it were. And I'm sure in the next couple of years, the Texas Rangers will be all about that with their monster deals to Marcus Semien, who's an awesome individual. Wish him all the best. And Corey Seager as well. 10 years, $300 billion or something ridiculous. Texas, man, they just pay anybody anything. Come play for us, please. Come play in our tin can of a stadium in the middle of the Texas heat. Anyway.
It's Michael Young karma.
Oh, see? Steve has given us all a little preview of one of my my do-overs that I would like to do. Thanks, Steve. Great, I can just go home. Yeah, all right. My work here is done. But we've got some fake news for you. And as well, Karen has a little special holiday treat for everyone. She's been working on it nonstop, and it's pretty good. So I can't wait to share that with everybody. So let's dive in, so to speak. Here we are, middle of December, and all we can talk about are really kind of old rumors, quote unquote old in the 2021, the world of social media and whatnot. I guess you can call it old. And we're locked out. There's no baseball. Nobody can make any signings. You're seeing players sign in Japan and Korea. Freddie Galvis, I think, just signed 2 years. These guys in that boat who are, looking for potential bubble type roster spots, they're going overseas, signing their deals and whatnot. I don't blame them. Can't blame them one bit. I lived in Korea. It's a beautiful place. People are beautiful. You'll have a great time over there. The only thing that major league clubs can do now is sign minor league deals. And in December, when we were talking about minor league deals, nobody cares. Right. Let's be real here. These deals tend to typically happen end of January, February, when teams are just, we need a bunch of filler, so to speak, the just in case type contracts. Poor Justin case. He's always going to get a minor league deal anyway. But in the midst of all of that, we can talk about this idea of Seiya Suzuki, Japanese star. And Steve, I'm going to throw it to you first because I think you may be the most educated on Mr. Suzuki. So, what are your thoughts there with regard to the Blue Jays looking to bring in another outfielder?
Well, I think he may be as impactful as a Freddie Freeman or other guys that come into the lineup because he changes the dynamic of a Blue Jays lineup. I know there's a lot of, but Japanese hitters, they struggle. They can't catch up with the fastball, whatever it is. Suzuki is not your traditional Japanese hitter. Now, a Japanese hitter will generally either have like the really high front leg kick, always put the weight on the front foot, so it's more of a slap hitter. That's why like Ichiro and players like that were so good at hitting the ball to all different fields and slapping it through the infield, because that's just how they're taught how to hit. Suzuki has always been a Western style, MLB style hitter. He stays back on the ball. His weight is on the back leg. That allows him to catch up with balls. And even if he's a little bit behind, he can drive it to the opposite field. Almost as exciting as he is a terrific base runner. So you could put him at the top of the order, which automatically lengthens the lineup all the way down. And then when I say top, one or two, because I don't know whether George Springer would mope if he's not the leadoff hitter or whatever. But, you could put him up there. And everyone's like, well, he hit 38 homers, when he led Japan, in home runs, a couple of seasons ago. That's true, but he's a doubles machine. He is going to be able to not only, hit behind, base runners, move them over. He can drive the ball into the gaps. He is going to completely change the dynamic of the Blue Jays lineup. Plus, he can steal bases, and he won't get, more importantly, he does not get thrown out of the bases. And as far as the fourth outfielder, you're rotating guys through the DH anyway. I realize that is counterintuitive to a Freddie Freeman signing, but he's a terrific defensive outfielder, and he has one of the better arms that I've ever seen, period. We're talking Jesse Barfield, Roberto Clemente kind of throwing arm. So I say, bring in him as a fourth outfielder. You could technically sign him to a minor league deal and then add him to the 40-man later. He hasn't played in the major leagues last season. So technically, if you wanted to piss everybody off, union, other owners, sign him to a minor league deal.
An $80 million minor league deal.
They have signed Japanese players to minor league deals before. It's not unprecedented. During a lockout or strike, it's unprecedented, but just saying, you could, grow some cojones there, Ross, and think outside the box and bring him in.
Okay, well, I don't know if Ross and his the size of his body parts have anything to do with whether or not that happens. But it is an interesting, and we'll just set aside, even if he doesn't, I think that's creative and I love the creativity. But even if it doesn't happen, he'll have a window after the lockout in which he can sign.
He has 21 days left, I think.
Right. So Karen, my question for you is, given everything that Steve just said, and given the state of the Blue Jays outfield, where George Springer is in center field, nobody is going to move him from center field unless it's himself, and he's hurt. At this point, I don't see anybody pushing him to a corner spot. Then you have Lourdes Gurriel, your guy, Gold Glove finalist year after year, perennial, as they say. In left field, and then they've got Teoscar Hernandez and Randall Grichuk in right. Now, obviously, if the Blue Jays signed somebody who has the potential that Steve just listed in Suzuki, Randall Grichuk can carry his bags for all I care. I'll pay him $10 million just to do that. So that's fine for me. But Karen, as far as the roster construction is now and everything Steve just said, where are you on this Suzuki tie to Toronto?
Yeah, I mean, first off, Steve, I'm really glad you're with us in particular for this particular segment. I mean, I've heard this name thrown around, and I personally don't know all that much about him other than what I've heard from other people. So great insight there. I mean, he honestly, listening to you talk about him, he sounds like just the kind of player that the Blue Jays could really use to round out their offense. And I mean, kind of in a way, maybe what they were trying to accomplish with Gerard Dyson and before him, Jonathan Davis, but like a millionfold more as far as someone who can play defense, who can run bases, who's a good base stealer, runner, and so forth. And I mean, we don't know the knock on some Japanese players. They've come over and they haven't been able to make the adjustment to MLB, but there have been a few that have been. And it sounds like this one might actually be worth the risk and the investment. So, I mean, I'm with you, Sean. You wrote a nice piece a while back about, it really is time for the Jays to part company with Randall Grichuk. And I'm like 1,000% with you there. Like it would make the Jays so much better if their 4 outfielders, Springer, Hernandez, Gurriel, instead of Grichuk. It sounds like Suzuki would make them like way, way better. So if they can pull that off, I'm all for it. I mean, you guys know my feeling about not trading Gurriel or Hernandez, which some people seem to think would be, if not 100% a good idea, at least worth considering under the right set of circumstances. For me, you don't trade either of those guys because that's not making your team better. It's making it worse. Just my opinion. Not everybody agrees with that, but so yeah, those 4 sold.
There you go. And it's interesting because at this point, like that whole train, the Suzuki negotiating window train has kind of come to a screeching halt. So, there'll be time. I don't know if during a lockout, if the owners can still court him or whatever have you. So that's the only thing I'm not sure of. Karen, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to ask what you were saying, that MLB owners and MLB players are not allowed to communicate, negotiate, and so forth. Suzuki is not yet in the MLB Players Union. Now, I realize they couldn't sign him, but is it strictly against the rules for teams to make a pitch to him, to make their best pitch to him?
I mean, technically, yes. He has a U.S.-based agent, so that would create issues for the agent as well if he was negotiating without a CBA being in place. But again, I mean, that's not to say that there aren't scouts or representatives of major league teams over in Japan right now that just happen to run into him at a sushi bar or whatever. I don't think they even have sushi bars in Japan, but you know what I mean. I mean, it's. He's such an intriguing guy. And the other thing that it does, again, you don't want to trade Gurriel and Hernandez, okay. But it allows you to trade Grichuk for a number 5 starter, not trying to get the best value you can or a top end starter. It allows you to trade Grichuk. And I mean, that makes me sad, but that's how much I love the Suzuki guy. I'm already trading Randall Grichuk. You don't have to go out and worry about getting the absolute best return. You get a return that you need now, a guy that can fill that number 5 hole on a consistent basis, eat innings, send some money along, and you've got your 4 outfield rotation. And like you said, with injuries with Springer, Lourdes can rest Vladdy at first base. Vladdy's DHing, things like that. It creates a whole other dynamic that's really not there right now with Grichuk as the 4th outfielder.
That's right. And Toronto can be sending him mini muffins and little Canada Goose coats and all that stuff. And watching live on our YouTube channel. Sarah has a comment, and she has an observation. Did all three of you just agree on something? It has to be good. Sarah, I could not agree more. Could not agree more. Thank you as always, Sarah, for first of all for watching, but also for your contributions to our show week in, week out. We really appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, mark this date on your calendar. What is it? December 13th, 2021. There you go. Merry Christmas, everybody. What is that little show? God bless us, everyone. But
I'm not a man, or we could be the three wise men.
Yeah, no, nobody would ever accuse me of being in that group. I'd be the guy who brought like pepperoni and cheese.
Yeah, right.
Frankincense, myrrh, pepperoni and cheese. Anyway, yeah, thrown off now by pepperoni and cheese. Oh, right. So Freddie Freeman now, because we're talking about connections that are, that have been made. And in a little while back, this idea of Freddie Freeman coming to the Toronto Blue Jays, after apparently, well, we found out first Freddie Freeman was approached the Blue Jays, which we can talk about that in a second. But then we found out that they were in on Corey Seager, left-handed hitter, until he got, the entire state of Texas to play down there. So it's interesting in the sense that we're in a whole new time period. It's like a whole new world. It's like Aladdin up in here. We've got the top cream of the crop available talent, if it's true, coming to the Blue Jays saying, hey, would you like to play? Would you like to pay me? I'll play for you. Then we have in Kevin Gausman and Yimi Garcia, guys who are taking less money to play in Toronto. And all of a sudden, it's starting to seem like the crazy rumors that are out there in the Freddie Freeman thing, which could very well just be an agent dropping something and saying, hey, the Blue Jays are in the mix. They've got lots of money. They're just to drive up the price. But the crazy thing for me, and Karen, I'll go to you first, but the crazy thing for me is that even if it's crazy, there's a possibility that you don't just dismiss it out of hand. I remember a few years ago, it was, the Blue Jays could be in on Bryce Harper. And I was like, no, don't be ridiculous. But now, Freddie Freeman, I'm not saying don't be ridiculous. I'm saying, okay, well, don't hold your breath for it. But, and it's that but. So Karen, in your mind, and I know you wrote about this, so that's why I'm throwing it to you first, but with Vladdy at first, who has looked very good at first, and something that doesn't get noticed is what the errors that he's saved the team with his glove because of Bo's and everybody else's throws, but Bo in particular. How would that, in your mind, Karen, how would you see that working? Let's just assume for a minute that there's truth to this. How do you see that playing out?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you were talking before about smoke and mirrors, and no disrespect to Justin Smoke, but I think it's past your time. So if we're going to look at another first base type, I mean, to me, and the universe has returned to normal, because this is one of the many things that I know, Steve, and I don't see eye to eye on, that you never really liked the fit of Marcus Semien with the Blue Jays. A year ago, when the Blue Jays signed Marcus Semien, and it was announced that they signed him to play second base, I didn't really understand it, because I thought, they've already got a pretty good second baseman in Kevin Biggio. But whether you want to admit it or not, the Blue Jays won more with Marcus Semien than they would have, like, everything else being equal. Kevin Biggio having the year that he did last year, which was very, very unfortunate and I believe injury marred. You take Marcus Semien out of the picture and the Blue Jays win a lot less without him. So, I mean, at first it doesn't seem to make sense because they've got Vlad at first base. I mean, he had the breakout season with the bats. I see his next 10 to 15 years offensively being one of the best in the game. He's improved so much defensively at first base. So, I mean, if you even consider bringing in Freddie Freeman, how does that work out? That was your question to me, and I'm dancing around it. But I mean, as I said in the piece that I wrote, some people, when talking about that, have gone right to the possibility of, okay, well, the Jays need a third baseman, move Vlad back over to third. That's not really something I myself would prefer to do. And apparently, I was reading, I think it was Shai Davidi said that the Jays have not approached Guerrero about a position switch back to third. So that means one of two things. Either the Freeman thing isn't going to happen, or if it is going to happen, they're going to do it the way I said, which is going back to having a full-time DH. And I mean, for years and years and years, I've been a diehard baseball fan since 1992. And from then up until the Blue Jays parted company with Kendrys Morales, they've really always had a dedicated DH who did it like well over 90% of the time. Since then, I know they have used the spots on more of a rotating basis to give someone a semi-day off. Used it a fair bit last year with Springer when he was healthy enough to hit and his bat was an asset, but he wasn't really yet healthy enough to play in the outfield. What I'm saying is for a hitter like Freddie Freeman with his track record, and he's a left-hander to boot, and the Jays are just dying for a left-hander to throw into that lineup, I really think it could be worth going back to having a full-time DH. So that's how I see that possibility. I mean, I think if I had to bet some money and, tell us where Freddie Freeman will play in 2022, I still think he'll go back to Atlanta. But the possibility of him coming to Toronto, it's not impossible. I mean, heck, well, why would he approach the Jays and think about possibly playing for them? Well, he had a front row seat and he watched the Jays get the season sweep against his soon-to-be champion Atlanta team. So he has seen the potential of this team.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I mean, if I were a Major League Baseball player looking for a potential new home, I'd be looking at Toronto very, very, very hard. But Steve, before I throw it to you, I think there's the philosophy here. First of all, you have the Dodgers who kind of have gone over the past few years, just get as much talent as you can. You'll figure out playing time later. And let's be real, the Dodgers didn't have a DH spot, and yet they still kind of collected as much talent as they can. Toronto could make that work. The only worry I would have would be the injury of George Springer and things like that, where you may need that DH spot. So I guess, Steve, my question to you is, do you agree with this idea? And I believe the Blue Jays desperately want a left-handed bat. Oh, yeah. I think that's actually kind of understated. People just to say, oh, well, they need a lefty bat. I think they're actually kind of desperate for one, to be honest. But Steve, given all of that and everything you just heard from Karen, where are you on this Freddie Freeman thing? Do you think it's just kind of, do you think there's anything to it? And if there is something to it, do you agree with it?
Well, I think it's delightfully ironic that we're talking about this 12 days before Christmas, because, we all used to write our list out to Santa. And from the time I was like 7 years old, I was asking for a 4-track studio with a TIAC deck and everything. And I never got it. This is really a matter of really wishing and putting this on the list and say, I hope this happens. I don't know logistically that it happens. Now, again, the players aren't going to the representatives. The representatives are going to the team. And then if something's really interesting, then they come back to the player and say, hey, look, I know you want to go back to Atlanta, but, the Jays are offering this or or whatever it would be. the one way that I can see it working, it would, let's say they don't sign Suzuki, you start moving and putting Vlad in the outfield rotation. I think he would be a more than adequate, above average major league outfielder. If Lourdes Gurriel can play left field, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. can play left field. And again, I mean, Lourdes Gurriel is a great hitter. He's wrong way Corrigan when it comes to trying to track down fly balls half the time. But I think that would be a really intriguing thing to move Vladdy to the outfield.
Well, at first I didn't quite hear what you said because I had a comment in here from Matt, who's joining us this week from YouTube. But before I put it up, I didn't quite hear you say it, and then you repeated it. So you're really suggesting that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. can play the outfield?
Oh, absolutely. From day one, you could put him in the outfield, and he would more than hold his own. I have no doubts about that.
I would be shocked. I legitimately would be shocked, and that's no knock on Vlad, and no knock on you for your confidence in the young. Let's call him Canadian. Screw it, I'm going to do it in the young Canadian, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. But wow, that's a bold thing to say. I don't even know how to. I just can't see it. So instead of me stammering over words, I'm going to throw up this interesting observation from Matt.
You're not going to swoon now, are you?
He might, because
okay, right.
Yeah. A few weeks ago, Matt was going on about how good looking I was at that episode. So I hesitate when putting his comments up sometimes, lest I blush. But he has a good point here. Matt says, I think you make the team better by spending $30 million on the rotation rather than at DH. Love Freddie, but the offense is fine without him, and the pitching just isn't good enough yet. And I think that last sentence is very, very tough to argue. You know, we talked earlier about trading Randall Grichuk for a fifth starter. I would be more than happy if they could get a fifth starter for Randall Grichuk. So I would make that deal all night, all day, every day. And because of what Matt just said, like the offense is good, but the pitching isn't as good. So that's a very interesting point. When you're considering Freddie Freeman, it would be almost a kind of like a too much of a good thing. Right, where but then you've got to rely on your pitching, which, as Matt said, isn't good enough. And then in that case, you may end up regretting spending the kind of money that Freddie Freeman, the nearly $200 million that he might be looking for, which means that he may end up in a future segment of Blue Jays deals we'd like to undo. See? That, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching at home, taking your broadcast journalism courses, that is how you do a segue.
That's why there's 281 episodes. That's right. That's why, right there.
And counting.
Right.
Oh man, every now and then, right? Broken clock and all that. So in the interest of time, because we're running short here, let's maybe just do one each. A deal we would like to do over, have back, redo, however you want to, a mulligan, whatever you want to call it, send it back up the chimney. Oh my God, somebody stop me. Karen, I'm going to throw it to you. What is the deal, the one deal that you would like to see the Blue Jays undo?
I mean, recency, I've got one of each. So this past season, signing Kirby Yates, I understand the gamble. I understand how good he has been in the past. He failed 2 physicals this year, once with Atlanta and once with the Jays, and they basically threw away $5 million for nothing. And the trade that I really wish they could undo, and I've said this a zillion times before, even though it looked good on paper, Brad Hand for Riley Adams. I mean, at the time, I thought, that's a good gamble. He has been good earlier this year. If he's not, it only cost them Riley Adams. Well, guess what? It cost them Riley Adams, and he's someone that they could have traded for someone else. And Brad Hand, oh my God. How many saves did he blow?
Yeah, he turned into a foot, that guy. All right, Mr. Feck, a do-over. Now you're at an advantage here, right? Because you can vividly remember all 40-something seasons that the Blue Jays have. So there's probably a lot of deals you'd like to have undone, but in the interest of time, let's keep it to one.
Yeah. Well, I will say that for Jays from the Couch fans, the trade of Mark Lamangelo to Toronto for Alan Ashby is the one that you regret most, because that's how I got connected to the Blue Jays. So that's the one that you should really think is the worst one. I think it's John Olerud to the Mets for Robert Person. Plus, you gave him money. Why didn't you go ahead and build him a ballpark too at the same time? I mean, that was just a horrible deal. You could have gotten so much more for John Olerud. I understand Carlos Delgado was ready. I had no problem with trading Olerud in theory, but to get Robert Person for him and pay the bulk of his salary, that is Gord Ash at his absolute ashiness.
Well
Do
done.
you think they got the wrong person back for Olerud?
Robert, yeah. I almost missed that one. Very good. Very, very good.
Oh, man. Okay, yeah. The one, and Steve hinted at it earlier, that still bugs me is the Michael Young for Esteban Loaiza. It still kills me. Michael Young went on to have a tremendous career. One of the best hitters in baseball when he was playing, and played shortstop for the Texas Rangers. But man, Loaiza came in, he was supposed to help, and he was, and now, of course, he got himself involved in a whole bunch of legal trouble and is now in prison. And I'm sure Michael Young is somewhere on a ranch, living life to its fullest with his buddy Vernon Wells. So that's the one trade I wish we could do over. And the signings, Kendrys Morales is one I think that I would, like to redo, but I'm not upset by it. They took a shot, didn't work. It's only money. I'm not going to get upset about it.
Ryan too.
What's that?
BJ Ryan too.
Yeah, BJ Ryan was a disappointment. You're right.
It was really good for 1 year.
Yeah, they signed him for 5, didn't they?
Yes, and that was the problem. Yeah, he was good for 1 year. They signed him for 5.
Anyway, I mean, there's nothing you can do. You can't predict the future. You don't know how things are going to go. For one reason or another, they could land Suzuki, and he could, turn into Munenori Kawasaki. Who knows, right? But those are some deals, man, that you knew at the time, you just didn't feel right about it. And of course, time has proven us. Oh, and R.A. Dickey. Can we acknowledge that wasn't a smart move? Everybody in baseball.
Was Syndergaard back, man, it almost happened.
No, that was a good deal. It was a good deal. Dickey delivered quality innings. Okay. Noah Syndergaard. Okay. What has he done? Really, he had 2 good years, a year and a half of good. Everything else has been injury shortened. R.A. Dickey.
You're not going to convince me, Karen.
I have about $1 million, in my heart. The 2015 Blue Jays were good enough to be world champions, and I've gone over 1 million times in my head. What if this? What if that? What if Goins hadn't dropped the ball? Well, here's one. What if they had never traded Syndergaard for R.A. Dickey? Look at the season Syndergaard had. Look at the playoffs that Syndergaard had in 2015. That could have been the difference right there.
Or that weirdy beardy kid. That could have been the difference too.
and a bunch of others, but...
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Here's a good one. Matt Sweeby would do over J Happ for Brandon Drury and Billy McKinney.
Yes.
And I almost forgot McKinney's first name.
Silly Billy.
So, I mean, I guess that tells you I agree. The return there was less than desirable, as they say.
Yep.
All right. So we're going to move into now we're going to move into our fake news segment, a brief fake news segment this week, and then Karen's holiday treat. So, without further ado, Jays from the Couch proudly presents Fake Blue Jays News. Steve, over to you.
Thank you, Sean. During any labor negotiation, especially one that creates an unpopular work stoppage, both management and union members work hard to rally support to their causes. Now, Commissioner Robert Blind Manfred immediately held a press conference after the lockout was imposed to plead the owner's poverty case. And the players, no doubt, the union will rev up the player PR machine after the holidays. But Toronto Blue Jays players have taken the initiative to endear themselves to the fan base by lending their names and likenesses to a variety of charitable and public service initiatives. By far the most heartwarming was done by Captain Biggio for the Humane Society International of Canada. Biggio narrates the 30-second PSA, which addresses the careless tossing aside of loyal, beloved pets simply because they are sick or injured. Jays closer Jordan Romano stars in a spot for Children's Fitness Centers of Canada and is depicted doing his trademark deep knee bends before throwing a medicine ball to awaiting child athletes. Hyunjin Ryu is featured in a K-pop style spot promoting multiculturalism, while Reese McGuire encouraged parents to use parental controls on streaming services. None of the featured players are seen in Toronto Blue Jays gear due to the labor stoppage, though the MLBPA did allow Trent Thornton to wear his uniform, since Thornton will never be seen in a Blue Jays uniform again. While there has not been much news on the free agent and trade fronts through the league imposed transaction freeze on major league rosters, Blue Jays fans cannot stop talking about signings the teams was considered finalists for. The Jays were in on Corey Seager, really close to signing Noah Syndergaard, and of course, few Toronto fans can resist talking about how the team finished just one game out of a wildcard spot. Now, that Blue Jays fans chatter has caught the attention of museum curators in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, earning their beloved team a spot in the inaugural induction class of the Almost Hall of Fame. The Jays will be joined by the four-time Super Bowl losing Buffalo Bills teams of the 90s, the country of Germany for its performance in 2 world wars, Donald Trump's 2020 re-election campaign. Oh, God. Stephen Page's, I'm going to hell. Stephen Page's attempts to launch a solo career after leaving bare naked ladies. And while Jays star Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was not selected as the AL MVP, he will receive the Close But No Cigar Award. The Oakland A's and Tampa Bay Rays will share the Nice Try Trophy, awarded for their futile efforts to secure a new stadium deal over the past 20 years. No official word yet as to when the induction ceremonies will be held, but Almost Hall of Fame officials told Jays from the Couch the ceremony is really close to happening and that they hope to have the money to purchase or lease the building as soon as they hit the Powerball lottery in 2022. Back to you, Sean.
Oh, and this just in. Apparently, they have started hiring staff for the Almost Hall of Fame, and one of the ushers is Canadian Brett Laurie. So that's good. Yeah, because he almost had a career. Anyway, Steve, that might have been your best work ever. Oh my. Okay.
We should almost end the show now. I mean, who can follow?
No.
Oh no, we can't do that because this holiday season, I can't even. Karen has prepared a nice holiday treat. So gather around, kids. Sit around the fire, grab a cup of hot cocoa, snuggle up to your loved ones under a blanket as Karen presents the 12 Days of Christmas.
And great the way it worked out, too, being exactly 12 days before Christmas. I didn't even realize that. But thank you for pointing that out. So, without further ado... On the first day of Christmas, my true love sent to me a Cy Young winner. On the second day of Christmas, my true love sent to me 2 MVP finalists and a Cy Young winner. On the third day of Christmas, my true love sent to me 3 silver sluggers, 2 MVP finalists, and a Cy Young winner. On the 4th day of Christmas, my true love sent to me 4 first-time All-Stars, 3 silver sluggers, 2 MVP finalists, and a Cy Young winner. On the 5th day of Christmas, my true love sent to me 5 walk-off wins, 4 first-time All-Stars, 3 silver sluggers, 2 MVP finalists, and a Cy Young winner. On the 6th day of Christmas, my true love sent to me 6 10-start pitchers, 5 walk-off wins, 4 first-time All-Stars, 3 silver sluggers, 2 MVP finalists, and a Cy Young winner. On the 7th day of Christmas, my true love sent to me 7 inning doubleheaders, 6 10-start pitchers, 5 walk-off wins, 4 first-time All-Stars, 3 silver sluggers, 2 MVP finalists, and a Cy Young winner. On the 8th day of Christmas, my true love sent to me 8-game win streak, 7 inning doubleheader, 6 10-start pitchers, 5 walk-off wins, 4 first-time All-Stars, 3 silver sluggers, 2 MVP finalists, and a Cy Young winner. On the 9th day of Christmas, my true love sent to me 9 grand slams, 8-game win streak, 7 inning doubleheaders, 6 10-start pitchers, 5 walk-off wins, 4 first-time All-Stars, 3 silver sluggers, 2 MVP finalists, and a Cy Young winner. On the 10th day of Christmas, my true love sent to me 10 sacrifice bunts, 9 grand slams, 8-game win streak, 7 inning doubleheaders, 6 10-start pitchers, 5 walk-off wins, 4 first-time All-Stars, 3 silver sluggers, 2 MVP finalists, and a Cy Young winner. On the 11th day of Christmas, my true love sent to me 11 runs in 1 inning, 10 sacrifice bunts, 9 grand slams, 8-game win streak, 7 inning doubleheader, 6 10-start pitchers, 5 walk-off wins, 4 first-time All-Stars, 3 silver sluggers, 2 MVP finalists, and a Cy Young winner. On the 12th day of Christmas, my true love sent to me 12 extra inning games, 11 runs in 1 innings, 10 sacrifice bunts, 9 grand slams, 8-game win streak, 7 inning doubleheaders, 6 10-start pitchers, 5 walk-off wins, 4 first-time All-Stars, 3 silver sluggers, 2 MVP finalists, and a Cy Young winner. And I meant to say earlier, thank you to both of you for your amazing suggestions, because I was stuck a couple times and you guys really helped me out. So,
But you know where we dropped the ball, Sean? We should have had like the words with those little bouncing balls at the bottom, so people could have actually sang along. We dropped the ball on that one. I wish we would have thought of that one.
Well, I think, I dropped the ball even being here because you two stole the show. And Karen, I don't know how you did that. And for our listeners and everybody at home, Karen put a lot of work into finding the right things to put in. And you can look it up, do the research that she did, and you'll find every single one of those things that she mentioned actually did happen this season. So Karen, hats off to you. And the fact that you were able to get through it all, I would have given up.
Just about. Lost my breath a couple times.
Wow. And there is nothing like that's it. We're going to end this show on a high note, sung by Karen. Wow, that was, whew. Thank you both. for this week, both for the fake news and for the 12 Days of Christmas. I have not had this much fun doing a podcast in a long time. We will be back, of course. The lockout can't keep us off the airwaves or the whatever these waves are on YouTube or Facebook. We'll be live streaming 6 p.m. Mondays. Don't forget the On Feck Circle Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Karen's show, Sunny Side of the Dome, Thursdays, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Lots of Blue Jays content for you. We'll keep the conversation going all winter. Hopefully, the players and Major League Baseball will do the same and keep their conversations going all winter so that we can wrap up this foolishness, fighting over millions and millions of dollars. But regardless, Karen, let everybody know how they can follow you and all that fun stuff.
Yes, I'm on Twitter at Karen Sutar1, exactly as it's spelled there, SOUTAR1. And when I say I'm on Twitter, I'm on there a lot. So easy to find me, love to chat. Mutual respect is important, baseball, other relevant things. And yep.
And send Karen a tweet and let her know how much you appreciated her 12 Days of Christmas, because it was fantastic. And Steve, how about yourself? How can everybody follow you?
I'm on Twitter at Feckless Wonder. No show tomorrow because we're doing the alternating weeks kind of deal, but I'll be on the Tuesday before Christmas. I won't have anything nearly as good as what Karen just did, but we'll have some great conversation. We're going to go back looking at a lot more Blue Jays history stuff. Since there's no transactions to talk about, we'll talk about team history. And I am old enough to have witnessed it all. So
it's true. It's true. And as well, we're working on a minor league show to have for you featuring minor league players. We'll get Ryan Mueller from Jays from the Couch on, and he'll wax poetic about his favorite topic, Blue Jays minor leaguers. So lots to come at you. Don't forget, check us out at jaysfromthecouch.com. And of course, the audio version of this show can be found everywhere you find a podcast. Just look us up, give us a subscribe. Then you don't have to find us anymore. You can get automatically downloaded to your device. So for Steve, for Karen, for Esteban Loaiza, now screw him, he's a criminal. For Michael Young, this is Sean Doyle. You can follow me on Twitter at DoyleJFtC. Hoping life gives you a juicy fastball down the middle and you don't miss it. Take care.